I'm coming for that spot that you don't even want anymore. Because Swerve Man says that Adam Page doesn't have that fire anymore. He says either walk or fight me and I'll beat the ever-living fuck out of you, because Hangman just doesn't have that fire anymore, or does he? Swerve's gonna get it out of him, so let's go. I'm John Renton with my review of AEW Dynamite from Indianapolis, Indiana, as opposed to Indianapolis, North Dakota. So yeah, now that Soundgarden is just basically raring to say, what the fuck was that guy goddamn doing? Like anybody from Soundgarden or anybody of really any celebrity status would be watching this. Let's talk about Dynamite. So coming off of All Out, speeding towards Wrestle Dream, that as of now, as of this recording, tickets have not gone on sale yet. I will be trying to get a ticket, well, two tickets to Paradise, because why not? I'm already going to Collision the previous night, so why not try to go to Wrestle Dream? Because I really don't think after this I'm going to do any more double shot wrestling shows. I might not do another wrestling show in Seattle. And to be perfectly honest, even though there were some good things on this particular show, with the fact that AEW is just going all over the goddamn place, even though I'm glad they're coming back to Washington State, I'm worried with how they're drawing people, or not drawing people in some instances, that they may tighten things up and only run certain markets. Because Arthur Ashe Stadium is in 2 weeks. A little less than 2 weeks now. And they have not even come close to achieving the amount of tickets that they sold last year. Which was about, what was it, about 8,000 less than what they did the first year? They did about 20,100, 200 people. And they did just under 14,000 for, that's okay, it was 6,000 less. But still, they did a good house as far as money, but they're raising ticket prices for some of these, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they do for that. Now it's going to be interesting to see if they can actually match the 9,500 to 10,000 people they did for the January 4th Dynamite. I'm going to be perfectly honest here, guys. I will be amazed if between the two shows they do 12K combined. So yeah, 6,500 seat capacity for the Indiana Farmers Coliseum. We are farmers. According to WrestleTix on Twitter, a great fucking account to follow. That is WrestleTix, T-I-X. Great account to follow. They do a great job keeping up on all these facts and figures and everything for various promotions, WWE and AEW mainly. But they do some Ring of Honor stuff, and I believe do some New Japan stuff on occasion. But they provide great facts and figures for that. Here's Orange Cassidy. Oh, don't speak. I don't care what you're saying. And don't tell me because the words hurt. He gets a standing ovation, and look. He says, he thanks fans, says he's going to be there. Every single week, championship or no championship, because he's freshly squeezed and he doesn't have a catchphrase. Those that like him, they're going to be thrilled for it. I still say I would not be surprised if he ends up beating MJF for the championship at either full, God forbid if it happens at Wrestle Dream. If they somehow manage to do that at Wrestle Dream, God forbid. If they do that at Full Gear, though, that'll be about a year. If they wait till winter is coming, MJF's probably going to hold it at least for a year, if not just a couple weeks past a year. But I think MJF's losing it to Orange Cassidy. I don't like that. Wild thing, you make the Hoosiers sing, and Cassidy watches on while Moxley holds the title thing and takes on the lovely AR Fox there. One particular person will pop for that, and that's it. AEW Internationalist Incident Championship, as it were. Moxley's no selling, for a majority of the match, and just the fact that he just generally seems to work the same style. Like, he can work, he just doesn't seem like he wants to, and I found his matches irritating. Comical, but irritating. Darby and Nick Wayne watch on backstage. AR Fox does some stuff, and then we get a lariat, and then a Death Rider 1, 2, 3. So there we are. Darby then checks on AR Fox. Nick is on screen, pissed off, and then gets confronted by Christian, and Christian says, I owe you an apology about your dad, because after watching footage of your dad, he was a lot worse than I thought. Wait, don't worry. Don't get upset. Darby can't be your mentor. Let me be your mentor because I'm insulting your family and saying that your mom should slide into my DMs. His words, not mine. Even though Nick is awesome and his mother, a lovely woman, a very smart woman, and I bet she's absolutely thrilled for his success. She was at multiple indie shows that Nick was at in Everett and Seattle, and that whole family couldn't be nicer. So happy for Nick's success. But Christian being a full-on dick. And, yeah, then Statlander took on Emi Sakura. It's not that Emi Sakura can't work, it's that I don't like watching her work. I'm sorry, I don't get it. She was fine here, I guess. But a TBS championship match. Emi starts off hot. Statlander crashes to the floor, crashes into the steps. Gets hit with a double underhook backbreaker. Then hits a couple moves and hits the tombstone, 1, 2, 3, or Wednesday Night Fever, I think. Then we get a pre-tape on Roddy and his parents being drug addicts. Well, his mom being a drug addict, his dad being a alcoholic. He will not go back to the trailer park. That was a running gag when it came to his run in NXT. But in all seriousness, this was good. It was pre-taped, so that was a good thing. Roddy just can't do the live promos. He just can't. But here, through the miracle of editing and the fact that this was a real topic, he was pretty fired up here. And also somber at the same time. He was able to keep it properly leveled. And then Callis, he's joining commentary for the next match, which is Jericho and Sammy against Aussie Open. I determined two things here. Sammy is going to end up breaking his neck in a match, which I don't want. And Jericho can't hang anymore and really needs to think about hanging it up by the end of next year. At the beginning of 2025, he wants to work another Wrestle Kingdom or something, but I know he has a big contract with Khan. He cannot go anymore. He just fucking can't. There was a code breaker for 2. A lot of moves. A couple miscues between him and Sammy. So Sammy was all pissed off. Then a big old Judas effect. 1, 2, 3. Thanks for coming, Aussie Open. Just keep on losing. I mean, it makes sense why Jericho and Sammy would win, but then they are just they're all upset at each other. And there's a shove, and security's here to separate, and Sammy leaves through the crowd. It seems like they're alluding to Jericho and Sammy facing off at either Dynamite Grand Slam or Wrestle Dream. I imagine that it will probably happen at Grand Slam. And I'm glad they give these, some of these events bigger names, but if they're going to run more pay-per-views, I'm just going to say this right now before I continue the show, if they're going to run more pay-per-views, more than the 5 a year, they got to get a deal done with HBO Max, or Max now, as it were. They got to get a deal. Max is a good price as far as some of the content that you can get. They got a great horror movie section. I mean, as a horror movie fan, I definitely appreciate that. And some original movies and, some exclusives. But in all seriousness, it would be a big boost for Max subscribers. Also, it might push more people to subscribe to it. And you could do a $15, $20 surcharge per AEW pay-per-view, especially if they're going to do 8 to possibly 1 each month. That's better. Oh, sure, it's more than Peacock and everything. WWE has been established for all this time and everything. It had the network since 2014 and got on the cock about 2.5 years ago. AEW is 4 years into its existence. A little over 4 years because Double or Nothing happened. And I count that when the company, officially got rolling. So they need to get a deal with Max if they are going to start running more pay-per-views. If they're going to run 6 a year, they probably could keep it at $50 a price or $50 a pop and be all right. But if they're really going to try to run one a month in this current economic climate, Warner Bros. Discovery is going to have to work with them. They're going to have to do something where they are going. There's no way I can keep up with that, even though I make good money. And a lot of fans can't keep up with that stuff. So they need a streaming deal. And they need it fast. So we get recaps of Danielson and Starks. Starks is fired up. He says, don't, give me a piece of bread and tell me I'm fed. I want a full course meal. I want to prove my worth and everything. Or I want to prove that, I'm absolutely worth it. I'm absolute, all that. And why did it sound like he was alluding to the fact if his contract is up soon, he'll go to WWE? He didn't have to say WWE. That came in the next segment, but I fear that he might. Starks would be a good get for anybody if he doesn't stay in AEW, but I kind of hope he does, and I hope they realize what they have with him. I really hope that maybe they can shore up the roster, tighten up the roster, and maybe have some people that are older go by the wayside, and they can just free up some more spots. So, Renee's with Callis. Run. Oh, Takeshi's there. It's all right. There's a new picture. It'll be the unveiling of the next target. Who's Takeshi going to take out? Let's see. Probably one of the Young Bucks. Maybe Brandon Cutler. You know, it's got to be a pretty big deal. So, who will he take out? Sting? Oh, God. Takeshi versus Sting. Yeah. I don't know. Who do you think Takeshi's next target's going to be? So MJF comes out to a pop, and he's got a mic in hand and a taped neck because of all the stuff that happened at All Out. Carrying the Dark Order. And that's a gimmick that just needs to go. It just needs to go by the wayside. So anyway, Indy, who's your daddy? Ha ha ha. I appreciated that. And that he'll wrestle again at Dynamite Grand Slam, and he uses some insider terms and says there's somebody in particular I want to talk to, and before he can really, say the person's name, here's Samoa Joe to a big pop. There were may have been only about 3,100, 3,200 people in there. They were roaring for Samoa Joe. They were roaring for MJF too. This is one of the highlights of the show. What's the problem, kid? Or what seems to be the problem? You confused my theme with an ice cream truck. It's like, oh, that's hilarious. The last time I had anything to do with an ice cream truck, I was on the other company's network, as a big star. And that was good. I still have not seen the Twisted Metal series. Has anybody checked it out? Should I watch it? I'm not going to review it. I can only review so much stuff. So, MJF calls him the Pillsbury Joe boy, makes a comment about him having a small dick. And that Joe fires back with, well, you had to have your appointment with the rabbi pushed back because he didn't have much to work with. Dick jokes, hooray! So, then he says, Max, what's your problem, kid? You call me a kid one more time, and then all this. And the time in Brooklyn. I'm not going to go over all this, but this is good stuff. Getting a tryout at, Brooklyn. When they were at TakeOver Brooklyn. And Samoa Joe, all fired up. The story about Regal. Then they said the crowd was saying he fucked up. Bet the censors just love that. And I sent him back to NXT. And Joe, if you play your cards right, you'll be next. If Joe's contract is up in, say, the next year, I don't see Samoa Joe going back to NXT except to be a coach. This is going to be Joe's retirement. Joe is going to and he doesn't coast. He's still fired up on promos. He still does good matches. He ain't gonna be doing any more more of a stint in NXT. Not after how he kind of got jacked around the previous time. So basically, they just go over, accolades. They fire back at each other and everything. He basically says, stay out. MJF fires back, stay out of my way or I'm going to kill you. And he's all fired up. And I didn't think you were a kid, Max. I thought you were a little bitch. Oh, we said the L word. Wait, no, the L word was a Showtime. Was it Showtime? I think. And then Joe says, you're trying to antagonize me and cause me to lose my shot, but I'm not going to do that. And then he just lets MJF go and then kicks the rope and kicks him in the nuts and attacks him. And MJF nut shots him. And they get in a big old fracas. And then MJF gets laid out. And then it looks like the Muscle Buster. And oh no, Cole manages to finally run down. Apparently he was having a cup of coffee or possibly doing something with Britt. I'm not here to imply anything, even though I pretty much just did. And he chases Joe off. And then the doctors are checking on MJF. Joe's laughing. Says, I'll see you at Grand Slam, bitch. Yeah, little bitch. And then Roderick Strong and the Kingdom show up. Bennett and Taven. Almost said Baven and Tevitt. Which just sound like two knights from like an asylum, medieval movie. So anyway, they yell at Cole. The next Strong t-shirts. And then Strong beat Trent. I'm not going to focus much on a match involving the crackpot right-wing Trent. Are you out of your mind? Strong can work. This whole neck thing is going to basically involve him. He's either going to get eliminated from the next, in the semifinals or in the finals. And if it's Joe versus Strong in the finals, that might actually be pretty good. It would be a good way for Strong to try and get some revenge on Samoa Joe, considering Joe is the one that caused this neck issue that is still bothering him about 3 months later or 2 months later. So anyway, and then Tony is justifiably insane, but my God, she looks great. And she says, you know what they say, chin up, tits out, and watch for the shoe. And she throws the shoe at Renee. By the way, there's a 4-way match with Tony, Storm, Nyla, Britt, and somebody else. I blanked on who it was. Sorry. Anyway, the winner faces Saraya at Dynamite Grand Slam. Have it be Nyla. Actually, it'll probably be Tony. I would have it be Nyla. Give Nyla a big old push out of that. They won't, but they should. So anyway, Hangman is here with Shivani. Hangman talks about, or the Hangman was a terrible teacher graphic. I mean, that's unfair. I think he was a fine teacher. And he mentions how teachers are underfunded, underappreciated, and undervalued, and that we see you. And he's right. Teachers should be paid appropriately and way better than they are because they are educators, and that's what they're supposed to be. They should be paid for dealing with a lot of rugrats that y'all fuckers just push off in the schools and push out of your twats and shart out of your twats. And my whole point is teachers deserve a lot more to deal with your offspring. So as if like any parents are watching this. So that he mentions what he'd like to do for the rest of the year. Here's Swerve, Prince Nana, doing this kind of dancing. He's about as, rhythm filled as I am. And Swerve says, spending time in a coffin, it gives you time to reflect. And once I got out, and he implies he was in a coffin for 2 weeks. He'd be dead. And he said, he knocks the fact that Hangman did it for charity, that you're competing on the pre-show. You competed it all in. You were one of the guys that this company basically said, you're going to be one of the cornerstones and everything. And you become a tag team champion, a world champion. You've done all this stuff and everything. And now look at you. You were on the pre-show of All Out. To be fair, Swerve wasn't on All Out, so I'm not really sure. Hangman was on the losing side of his match, but so was Swerve, and Swerve got locked in the casket. I get what Swerve's going for, though. He's like, if I got the opportunities that you got, I would have been the first black AEW World Heavyweight Champion. And he would have. And he should be, in all honesty, because Swerve is great. He's been great for a number of years. He was great before he got to NXT. And then they proceeded not to really know what to do with him. And you either ride off or you fight me. I'll get that fire out of you. And if you choose to do this with me, well, I'm going to walk you like a dog. I'm coming for that spot that you don't even want anymore. Ooh. And then he mentions how, or Hangman walks off and he's like, oh yeah, okay, abandon your responsibilities. Your family ought to know about all that. No, that. And then Brian Cage ends up attacking when Hangman runs back to the ring. You should have been able to smell the HGH, but never. I don't think you could smell HGH, but Drill Claw, there you are. So Rampage is Penta versus Lethal and Joe versus Jeff Hardy. I am aware of what the results of Rampage are, mainly because I don't care about Rampage, because it got to the point where we're reviewing it would, actually be more painful than smacking myself in the head with a gardening tool. And Collision might be getting to that point, because I'm going to tell you right now, for Collision, before I get to the main event, I don't know if I'm going to review Collision this week. I'll record it and I'll put up a poll, because I'm going to go watch a special screen of A Haunting in Venice. And I'm going to be doing that a lot more, guys. So I will be reviewing for sure, hopefully through the one that I'm going to on September 30th. But if Collision reviews kind of drop, if the show quality drops, like if they don't have Bryan Danielson, FTR, or a few other people involved in something good, I might end up having to skip some Collision shows, because that show just went down quickly. Even though it's still formatted kind of well, last week's episode wasn't great. So anyway, Darby Allin and Nick Wayne. So Pacific Northwest representation here, eliminator tournament match, and so Darby crashes on a dive and nearly dies because Darby does not even want to live by the age of 40. Nick Wayne focuses on the back up to the doctor, checks on him. And then Darby comes back targeting a knee, but Darby has hurt his knee also because Darby, again, doesn't want to live very long. And Darby basically grabs a mic a little bit later and says, "Stop hitting like an 18-year-old and hit me like you want to win this." Then Christian's music hits. We go to break with 5 minutes left, and then Tony Schiavone is saying, with 2 minutes left, Tony Khan has said that we will stay on the air. Just say at the beginning of the show, or say within the first 20 minutes. If this show runs long, we're going to stick with it. That way you have a chance to actually have people ready to deal with an overrun, even if it's a couple minutes. Otherwise, some people might see the main event and be like, you know what, fuck it, we don't want to watch it. They got to start announcing that better. Anyway, we get a splash to the outside. I'm surprised that Nick did not snap his arm there, and I love Nick Wayne. I didn't want to see anything like that happen. He tried for a Wayne's World off the top, or at least a twisted neck breaker, and fell down. Darby wouldn't do the coffin drop. Christian was on commentary. We get a last upper from Nick Wayne for 2. We get near falls, and then we get a head and arm trap vice, and Darby stomping on his neck, and then Nick just passes out, and that's it. So Darby advances to take on Roderick Strong. Yeah, there we go. That is it for Dynamite. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.